Tumininu Lawanson. I'm married to Lawanson with 3 children. I run a Montessori school in Uganda. The name of my school is Hermon Montessori School. We didn't actually need to name the school as Hermon. I had a name I wanted to name the school, but I had an inspiration, so the name is big in Psalms 133. How good and how pleasant it is for brethren to draw together in unity. I stumbled on Montessori years ago. Before that time, I've been a traditional teacher, and I knew there was something missing. I knew that there was more to education than just the traditional way of teaching, so I stumbled on Montessori. Montessori is a method of teaching that addresses first the individual before it comes into a larger community. It's a scientific approach, so it's more detailed. It's not just about the academics. It addresses the sensitive periods of a child. It's so concerned about the absorbing mind of a child. It talks about the characteristics of the child. So I felt that is a bit more deep than just to come into a classroom and teach a child. So I opted for Montessori method of teaching. Did I really want to be a teacher? Not really. I set out early in life. I love children though. I set out early in life to be a pediatrician, but somehow jammed to me. So I was left with the option of going to pick another career, and I was offered education. But in my time, education was not really a career that had so much prestige. You were seen as someone that had nothing out there. So I decided to go for zoology instead, because that kind of like was like a booster, you know. So I had to go for zoology. So along the line, years after when I finished, I started working in an insurance company, custodian and allied insurance to be precise, and I wasn't fulfilled. So as a single lady, I used to worship at KICC. My pastor just called me one day and asked me if I'm interested to be in the children's church. So I took up that challenge, and unfortunately, like about a year or so, about 9 months or a year thereabout, the person heading the children's church had to leave, so the responsibility now lied on my shoulders, so I had to take it up. And from all that I had to do then, change the setting of the children's church, I had, the interaction with the children. I just fell in love with them. And so from that period, my interest to know more about these children actually. I got a job at custodian and allied company, like I said, and I wasn't fulfilled. And then one day, the head of the children's church that I had to take over from said there was an opening in Westminster School, Anthony, and I had to go and do an interview. Not as a classroom teacher, but as a computer teacher. So I had to take up the responsibility. I always like challenges. If I start one way, since I'll still be dealing with the children, one day I'll get into the classroom. Along the way, when I was learning all the methodology of teaching the children, and with all the experiences I had in the few schools that I've gone to, I realized that excellence wasn't what was the desire. So when I decided to start my own, one thing that stood out was to be known for excellence. I love a community that it's supportive. So I decided that when I'm going to start the Hermon with a path of excellence, I'm going to create a lovely, friendly community where exceptional leaders that are not just going to be taught how to lead, but also understand the moral aspect of life will be raised. So, and then of course, I also look at the vision I thought about was to be a global brand. So if I want to be a global brand, I have to be excellent. The first few people I told actually my mom, my husband, and of course some few friends were the few people I told about the school. The response was very positive until I started telling some other people. That had to discourage me and told my husband and I how our legal salary cannot even rent an apartment in Baghdad because we used to live at Shulin. So at the point we were a bit discouraged, but because of the support I got from my husband and my mom, I decided to go all the way for it. For every journey, it's actually a story and it's a long story. So when I got encouraged and I was so convinced in my heart that this is what I want to do, we were shown, like I said initially, I knew that for me to be able to do what I want, I need to be in amongst like minds. Not that the people there are like minds, but there were lots of things that I saw that I wasn't comfortable with. It was also important that we meet, not that we need the kind of people that we want to service. So I had to look for this estate. And every day for like 3 months, I was coming to this estate. The structure was not built that we're in now. It was under construction. I went to so many other zones, met brick walls, but I wasn't just in the middle. So when I got to this zone C of Millennium City's estate, they were building the house, but somebody just told me, get out from the car and go and talk to the person that I saw there. And so I got down from the car and then had to speak with the guy, had to tell him we're interested in this place. It wasn't finished. In 2012, to be precise, the start started in February. For like 4 months after I got this place, I practically watched them build this place. Even though now we're doing a community service, I belong to a group called Hermon. We do a community service which is called Aid to Life, where we go to the local, our local settings, and then we teach them about Montessori. I needed to have a leverage first. I needed to know to start first and then begin to give out to my community, because giving out to your community also means that you have to have the money. I've always known that you just don't start a school without creating an awareness. So August 2012, I had to start with the summer school where I shared the flyers, sensitize the environment, to tell them that something interesting was going to happen. It was rolled out on September 2012, that's the year. We didn't have enough money. My husband had to break all the shares that he had and put everything together to pay the accommodation. Part of the challenge that we had was the fact that the place was not painted, but the inside was painted. And you know, I live in a country or in an environment where packaging is the first priority. People they're not concerned about the content you have, they're really concerned about the packaging. But I didn't have that luxury. I couldn't pay the payment from the landlord. I've even had people say to my face that with my children, school in an environment that is not painted, and I had to reply sometimes that this is a rented apartment, it's not my apartment. I can't pay the apartment from the landlord. But when they get inside, you just see the glow in their face and they're like, wow. And so for the people that were ready to take the risk, they came in. Another challenge was that people want to know what you have to offer. So I had to tell the story of my journey as a teacher and all that to some people, and some bought into the ideas. But after the summer school, we had quite a lot of enrollment. September came, and here we were, nobody came. So my son and my niece were my first students. We had to run that for like 6 months. Then after 6 months, we just had to knock on the door. The neighbor just brought the son, and then we stayed for like another year. In the second year, we had a little more explosion. By the third year, we were running to like about 50-something children. In a relationship, you have to make sacrifices. If you're ready to make it, then you might attract more amazing people. There were times that we had to put aside all our luxury, as in the traveling, having to get things that we needed for our children. So I had to just make that sacrifice. And then apart from that, of course, my time. I wake up in the morning by 15 minutes to 7. I get into the school. We have a morning devotion. Before I go into my office, I do a small check. I go around to see the setting of the environment, because setting is also very key and very important for the children. And then once that is done, I go back into the office to attend to all the other official issues that come up. I review what they do every Thursday, so they write a report for me. But on a daily basis, I just make sure that the school is run. So I sit in and I watch. And then when it is around about 3:30, thereabout, I'll pick up my children, and then from there we go. If there's need for me to come back, because home is very close. Once I drop my children, I just drive back to school. But if there's no need, I close for the day. I don't get back home until like 11. Sometimes I eat my supper in the office. Trying to put all the resources together, trying to put policies together, trying to put things together to run the school. So I had to make a lot of sacrifices, and I'm glad I did. When I was starting out as a teacher, I knew that I have to be very resilient because all the experiences I had when I was teaching was on the table somewhere, some were not, and I know that giving up wasn't an option for me. So what I did at the end of the day was to face every situation, take a day at a time, without having to sink in. And by the way, I'm a very emotional person. I break down easily. A lot of people don't know that part of me. There are lots of experiences I've had in the past, and I have learned that resilience keeps you alive, it keeps you in business. Because I always want to do things and do it well. That has been what has motivated me to always be focused amidst all the challenges. Because I'm this kind of person that doesn't easily give up. When all the challenges were happening, I was focused. I was focused because I knew what I wanted. I saw some things in the traditional classroom that I wasn't pleased with. I had to sit down sometimes to think about myself, and eventually if I had opportunity to be taught this way, who would I have been? I also was concerned about raising my children. I was also concerned about raising my cousin's children and what have you. So I had some things that were driving me. So those things that were driving me were actually the things that made me to be focused. We had a lot of challenges. Fun wasn't coming. Fun was an issue, but I'm glad that I didn't give up because at the time I was almost giving up. How would we get this money? How are we going to sustain it? So all those challenges are actually the things that gave me the confidence and made me to be focused, to see and to be convinced myself that I'm going to see this to a logical conclusion. And generation yet to come would benefit from this. The Lord started with me because I understand the place of God in what I do. The spiritual aspect of me is something that I don't joke with. In fact, every year it's been so amazing that before we enter into a new year, there's always a word. He gives us a word to run for the year. He backs it up. And like 3 years ago, things weren't going the way it's supposed to go. A lot of challenges, a lot of rift and what have you. God had to nudge me and took me back to Psalms 133. It says, how good and how pleasant it is for the brethren to dwell together in unity. He spoke expressly about unity. And he told me that if I'm going to keep the unity here, he's going to bless me beyond words. I had to go and address quite a lot of things. If the environment is not happy, I don't see God move. So the spiritual aspect of it is actually what holds your hand firm. I've seen him walk separately. He's taught me so many words. He's given me so many words that I don't even think about. So really and truly, if I say focus, yes, but the focus was actually because I know that I have a God that has a better plan for me, a God that is there for me, a God that propels me. When I want to give up, he nudges me again. He gives me a word. He is always there. So apart from the passion, that spiritual aspect of it is what has kept him. Nobody was actually expecting what happened to this year. Before the breakout of the pandemic, I am a strong believer of teaching children nature because it's part of my journey. I'm strong on children not having screen time, and if they have screen time, it has to be controlled. And so when this happened, I was a bit confused. I didn't know what to do. I had to call my staff. I called in the guy that was doing the understanding our robotics and the coding. What would we do? How are we going to achieve? Knowing fully well that 80% of the population are actually the 0 to 6 years, who can stay in front of screen for a long time. And so we were packaging stuff, and it hit us so badly that we didn't know what to do. We tried to put stuff together, and at the end of the day, did we do a good justice to having to do the screen time? Not really. What we now did at the end of the day was to do something that is called School on Wheel. School on Wheel is going to parent house. Of course, a lot of parents were afraid. They were apprehensive. They were also afraid of the breakout, and so we didn't have a lot of pattern. So initially, the first 2-3 weeks, we had almost 80% of the school, but thereafter, parents realized that it wasn't easy for them to be able to keep the 0 to 6, in front of screen for too long, so all of them opted out. So we had to use the 20% that we had as the elementary arm of the school. And even there, a lot of people did not also enroll. So I was faced with the challenge of having to pay my staff, having to pay the house rent. I think about people first, even though I'm learning to think about myself first. Funds were coming in. So the few of funds that came in, well, I had to call them to say, we're not going to be able to pay 100% of the salary. So we now decided that we're going to pay 50% of the salary. We started that around July. Prior to July, with the pandemic, we had an outbreak like around March. I was still paying 100%. By June, July, the reality turned on me that we couldn't continue. Right now, as I speak to you, funds is a challenge, but I was happy that I could pay the staff. I was happy that during the pandemic, at least they were having something in that. It affected us a great deal. The next phase that we're right now in is building content online. And we are starting. I don't know when we're going to finish, because Montessori content is quite a lot, but I know that we'll be there. So that's what this pandemic has taught me as a person individually. Even though it has affected the business, I stay positive. Everywhere we turn, there is always opportunity. Decided that I'm going to be building materials, do a package for children, and then send it to them. It would mean that I would have to also train the parents while the children are at home. So they're still doing activities in the house without having to go to a proper school. So there's quite a lot to be done. This pandemic has also helped me to have a larger network around the globe. Right now I have trained Montessori directors all over the world that want to be part of what I'm doing here. They're ready to train my teachers. So it actually opened up my sphere of influence than I could ever have imagined. So for me, it's a blessing, not looking at all the downside of the financial aspect of it, because I know that it can only get better. So opportunities lies out there for me more than before the pandemic. We are created to affect lives. My first desire is to be able to raise children that are forthright, children with integrity, and I know that I cannot do that if I don't start from my circle of influence. So in my church, for example, I made up my mind, not even before I even became an active member of this particular extended assembly that I am right now, to create a scholarship school for children that are in my church. I put that down long before we even started the school, to say every child, God help me, in my church will be able to come in here, so that I would affect them both in church and in the regular life. Because my belief is that once I affect such lives, I am raising more armies for Christ out there. So basically, is to raise children that are academically intelligent, yes, but morally intelligent children that stand for integrity and serve their God. So for me, it's a delight to raise soldiers for Christ. That's first my priority. I don't hide the fact that I'm a Christian. I speak over their life. I make it important to the teachers to also know that these children are kings and priests unto our God. He actually gave me that word, Revelation 5:10, that these children is given unto me are kings and priests unto our God. Opposition is something that I don't have control over. I truly don't have control over it. What I do when you come for enrollment or when you come for inquiry is to tell you what the school is all about. And I also go to extra mile to tell you which so I don't hide it. So So I let them understand that it is God that has given me release and these opportunities to start this place. And so some that I really don't believe in my faith, at the end of the day don't drink. But amazingly, I have people that doesn't also believe in my faith that are here because I made it very plain. I believe so much in this addict says that you can't give what you don't have. I like learning about what I am doing. Initially, I did the 3 to 6. Like I said, I read zoology, but I needed to do something that is related to education, so I did the 3 to 6. When the 3 to 6 is established, I decided that I'll do the 6 to 12, which I am on right now. I do a lot of seminars. I've enrolled at Nottingham University right now studying PGD. So every year I set a target for myself. So if I'm not in a seminar, I'm actually enrolled in a school. And so for me, that keeps me going. Montessori education is not so common. To run a Montessori school, to go for Montessori education is a bit expensive. It's on the high side. We don't have support for now, even though the organization is trying to push for grants so that a lot of people can have opportunity to be trained. But because I'm a resource person, because I love to know more about the children that I teach, I always train my staff. When I know that there's an opportunity out there, I also send them out to the train. The first 3 years of G of Hermon, I had to take 2 of my staff out to Dubai for training. During this COVID, we had a training somewhere in Kenya about the Montessori way of teaching. I had to send them there. I'm so strong on empowering teachers to empower the next generation. So for me, training is it. To be in Hermon Montessori school, as a teacher, you have to be trained. I don't look for educationists, I look for people that are ready. I look for people with attitude and character, and once that is settled, I train for skill. I've had to go for referrals, I've had to engage in recruiting firms, I've had to leverage on people around me. But what I do is that no matter who you are, even if you're not an educationist, you have to at least have a minimum certificate. You cannot be anything less than a graduate. Being a Christian is a tough one because I react to it, and that has cost me a lot of relationship. I react because I expect that there's some things that you should do. There's some things that that an adult should do, and when they don't do it, of course I react. So most of the time when I make those mistakes, there's a place of the Holy Spirit when you get back home and then it's telling you you've not done, you've not handled the situation properly. I always go back to apologize. I'm someone that wants to do everything right, but I realize that I can't. I always run away from having to say I'm sorry. But being a Christian has taught me to say sorry when I've messed up or when I've made a mistake. So as a Christian, I'm also very careful. What will this say about me? It's also very important. Because if I don't carry myself, if I compromise, when the people that are not Christian sees you, what will they say? So as a Christian, it has helped me to try and stay calm even when I'm irritated. It has helped me to also know how to say I'm sorry. It has also helped me to understand that people can make mistakes, and when they do, I have to understand and then help them through it. It's a whole journey. And I think my background also played a lot in the kind of woman that I am. I'm raised up in a family where my father believes so much that discipline is something that you just don't treat. It's either you're disciplined or you're not disciplined. But I realize now that yes, even if you're disciplined, there's some things that might not go the way you're supposed to go. But when I remember that I have to be a good ambassador, when I remember that people also have feelings, when I remember that I just must learn how to deal with people. And when I started your Hermon Montessori school, part of my focus is to make sure that the parents are my friends. I've had a situation where this particular parent was sick, and I had to practically drive her to the hospital. Her husband wasn't available. I stayed with her when she was pregnant. She was practically taking food from Geo Hermon every day because I understand, being a mother myself, that when you're pregnant, most of the time you don't want to eat the food that you have cooked in the house. So we were giving her. So I thought we were friends. I thought that we were parties until when school was going to resume. That was January that particular year. Less than 24 hours, I got a mail from them saying that the children would be coming out to school. The normal me would have called. The normal me would have listed all the things that they've enjoyed from Hermon Montessori school. And I don't know where that calmness came from. And so instead of reacting, I responded. And I had to talk to them. And that was when I decided and I made up my mind that when one parent keeps still 3 children, the Lord is going to bring double. I learned from that sometimes when I respond, it doesn't get me results. Am I really there? No, but I am getting better. I'm learning to understand that human beings are human beings and then stay calm and stay faithful to the God that has saved you. That's what I am learning. If I don't react, I get a better result. But when I react, I get a very horrible result. I am a woman of integrity. In this business, in the school business, because we don't have a lot of people checking and people that we're accountable to, people do things the way they just want to do it. Because by my training, I know that a 6-year-old is not meant to go to year 1. I know by my training that we have to complete a process. So I believe so much in primary 6. I put the policy in place to say that every child that comes to Hermon Montessori school must finish primary 6. And then I'm also very strong on a child being 6-year-old. And I'll tell you I'll tell you why. I've seen a 5-year-old when I was a classroom teacher, and I've seen a 6-year-old then as a classroom teacher. And I realized that the 5-year-old struggled all through. So when I got trained, it just collaborated what I have seen in the classroom. So here in Hermon Montessori school, our children don't go to year 1 until when they're at least 5, 9 months. And I used to explain to parents, when a baby is newly born, a 0 to 3, a 3 to 6, a 6 to 9, and a 9 to 12 cannot do the same. Sex that can actually do something close is a 9-month-old baby. So if you're going to move to year 1, you have to be 5, 9 months. I followed that belief so strongly. I've had parents come into my house to come and talk about it. But I became so edgy about it. The mistake I made was that I didn't explain. If I had explained, maybe a lot of them that pull the children out would have pulled the children out. It's not enough to be trained for something. But if you are trained, you also have to explain to the people that that are either following you why you're taking a particular step that you're taking. And when they don't want to, then at that point you can allow them. So what I am doing now, which I never used to do before, is to sit them out and explain. So when I explain, we come into a logical agreement. I am not breaking my rules. I am not also making them feel horrible. The experience that we have on a daily basis forms our outlook towards life. Now what I do more is I listen to you, I keep quiet, and once you're done, I'll tell you what the information I need to give you, which was how I started. And in 8 years, it has cost me a lot of wonderful and amazing friends. And when I sit back and I'm like, Tumininu Lawanson. But those lessons were meant for me to learn. Every September, before we come in, we have a word that the Lord gives to us. This year, amazing, when we were starting, He said He's going to give us cities that we have not built. We're going to eat fruits that we did not plant. We drink water from the well that we have not dug. And I'm looking at 2020 and I'm looking at the world, I'm looking at Deuteronomy 6 and I'm wondering, God, how will this happen? But because He has been faithful in the past, we believe that is our next reality. We might not have had the number of children enrollment for this year, but does that make the word of God without no? So I don't know where he's going to take us. Like I never used to know that. But I know he's going to make the story beautiful because I'm actually going to local cities that I do not know. So what I do is once God gives me that message, I come in, tell my staff about it, we pray about it. And then, it becomes a force that drives all of us. And so every morning we pray about it to hand it over to God. And then when the challenges come, when they're looking down, and I tell them, I've not forgotten what God has said to me. They might not understand, but I understand it. Every year in, year out, is proving itself so faithful. A lot of time we focus on the things that are not working and forget the things that are working. I look at COVID, I look at the number of children that did not return for this term. But I've forgotten that every week of this term, we ran like about 13 weeks, everybody that has stepped in here has enrolled to Hermon Montessori. I also trust God that it's going to be a global brand this year. We got people from 2 different continents joining us. We have a nation. So I'm looking forward to 2021. I don't know what the experience will be, but I know that it's going to fulfill that which He has given it to us. Running a school and having to keep my home, I've had to do it with the support of my husband. It's not easy having to run the school and the home, but because I have a very supportive husband, sometimes we don't eat properly. Not because I don't have time to cook, I'm practically tired. This business, you have to do a lot of talking. You have to talk to the teachers, you have to talk to the parents, so it is energy sapping. So sometimes when I get home, I don't get to do anything because my husband is extremely supportive. My children are also very supportive. It's so amazing that sometimes when you're on holidays, they say, Mommy, do you need help? And they practically come to the school to also help. So it has made it a bit easy for me to be able to run the school and the home. I'm not taking it for granted because sometimes, of course, they complain and say, we're forgetting that we still exist. So at that point, I just, take a pause, then try and retreat, and then attend. School business is not a business that you can run into and expect to make money immediately. They say 10 years, but that's the least. However, education can also change that statistic. So, passion, don't go all out for it because of money. Training, you have to be trained. It is important you understand what comes with the characteristics of every child. Once you're trained, then you also have to look for a location to meet your target customer. It is very important because that can slow one down. If you want a location where you meet like minds, you might have to look for an accommodation around that place. So three things. Passion first, you have to be trained, and then you have to look for a location that meets what you want. Those are the three things that is very important.